Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have a very special return guest. Denise Pisani is back with us today. She's been on the podcast several times before, and she's a very well known mortgage broker in Port Credit and in Mississauga and in the entire west end of the GTA. Welcome back, Denise. So nice to have you on board again.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. That was a nice intro.
No
Like
problem.
that.
Well, Denise, you and I have known each other many years now. I know you're affiliated with a company called Mortgage Center Canada, and you also
hmm
have your own company called Mortgage in the City, which just had
hmm
a grand opening of a new office right on Lakeshore Road West in Port Credit. Beautiful new office. I was down there for your grand opening. Congratulations.
Yes,
That's a
very nice.
beautiful
Right in front
office.
of Brightwater. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful location. Yeah.
You
So
think you think you
excited.
could get a more strategic location than that? That's amazing.
I don't know. It just kind of all happened and it's like, wow, this is fantastic. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
I'm really happy.
That's great. It's great. So nice to see you
Mhm.
again. So today we haven't really prepared like what we're going to talk about today, but you and I could talk again. We go back 20 plus years now, more than that. And we I guess we should just talk about the market a little bit. It's been an interesting year. 2022 and 2023 have really turned things upside down in the real estate
A
world.
lot of rate hikes, a lot of rate hikes, a lot of volatility in the market for sure.
Just and totally, I mean, everybody was expecting, people were saying 2 years ago, it's not sustainable. Something's got to happen. But I don't think anybody expected 10 interest rate increases in a row in 17 months. And apparently, the Bank of Canada has another meeting coming up in September on the 6th of September. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could maybe do one more rate hike at 0.25%. Nobody's sure, but the Americans apparently are still raising rates. So we're not in a vacuum, we're kind of connected.
Yeah, I've heard both sides of the story. There's
Yeah,
three
I
more
hope
this
not.
year. I've
Three
heard
more.
that
Oh, meetings.
there's
Yeah.
three more meetings this year. I've I've read articles where they're not going to touch the rates all three meetings. But then I've read that they are too. So it's so hard to predict. I just don't have a grasp on anything that's going to happen, whether they're going to go up or stay the
Well,
same.
don't feel
I
bad
wish
because
they'd
nobody
obviously
knows.
hold.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
like I it's like I'm getting calls every single day, more than one,
Yep.
about mortgage renewals, upcoming renewals that clients
Yeah.
have, and they're
Well,
worried. They're really worried. Rates
well,
are have doubled from what they're coming
yes.
due with. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, you and I have been in the industry a long time, long time.
Mhm.
And I haven't seen anything quite like this. I can honestly say, and I started in 1993. And so I missed that big 1989 crash where there was this big,
Mhm.
huge increase in rates. But so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but something's got to give because we've got these ultra high house prices still, even though they've come down a bit. And again, that's a strange situation because in some areas they're down a lot. Like if you go up to Brampton, North Brampton, prices are down 20% easy for bigger houses.
Really?
I think so. I think so. Here in
hmm
Mississauga, maybe not so bad. Condos have softened a little, but not that badly. And there are parts of Toronto, if you go down to like Forest Hill, places like that, where really solid areas, prices are actually up a little bit. And
hmm
so it's kind of a spotty thing. It's not some homogenous market where everything moves at the same time. But I got to tell you, and I have a reputation for being too positive. People have told me that over the years. Randy, you got rose colored glasses because there are doom and gloomers in every market. Even in the booming market, there's some people, there's some realtors or some market observers who are saying, oh, we're way too high. We're going to come down. I've never been like that. But I have to say, when I look around today, it kind of feels like it's winter and we're walking out across a frozen lake and you're walking across the ice and you start to hear it crack a little bit. Sorry.
hmm
I'm trying to paint a picture here, but and I don't know, nobody really knows, but there's just so much, something's got to give. You can't have
hmm
$1 million house prices and mortgage rates, and you can tell me much, much better than I do, but what
Well,
are
yeah,
fixed
someone
rates
put it
are what, five and a half percent?
between 5.5% and 6%
Yeah,
for
and
rates.
variables are 6.5 or something like that. And
Six
we
and a
could talk
half
about,
to seven.
and
Yeah.
it's such a screwed up situation because for many years, and I'm sure you'll agree, everybody went variable because that was the clear winner. That was the absolute
Mhm.
winner.
For
Everybody who had a
years. No
you
one
came
ever
out on top.
doubted. Yeah.
But who expected 10 interest rate increases in a row? Nobody.
Yeah.
So those people
Nobody.
got squeezed, and I have some of my clients, and I'm sure you talking to them, your clients every day, that got squeezed with the variable rate mortgages because their payments are way higher. So
Yeah.
that's where sort of where we're at. But
Triple payments have gone up three times, like
right.
the
So
three
like there
times
was a
what they're
thing,
used to.
yeah, there was some lady up in Barrie, I think, who it was in the paper the other last week, I think. She had started out her payments for 2,000 a month. Now there's 6,000 a month for a house in Barrie. Excuse me? I mean, that's just nuts. And she's saying we have to sell. We can't afford this. It's just not working.
Yeah. I
So
just got an email this morning of from one of my clients. He's coming due in October, and
mhm,
he said they're coming out of a fixed rate of 2.89.
yeah,
And he's like, we need to talk about it because if we can't afford it, we're gonna have to sell. So
right.
definitely in the next 6 months to a year, we are going to see a lot of houses on the market.
I think you're right.
It's very sad unless these rates come down to around the four mark.
Yeah,
Being where they are right now, it's just too much for people.
yeah.
The price of food, the price of gas, the interest rates high. It's just all too much for people, and it's just like it's too much output monthly. There's no way.
I totally
Yeah,
agree. Now,
something's
the
got to
other
give.
right. Now, the other thing that people are blaming, and it's this is a tricky one, is immigration and our federal government. And you and I have talked about this before. You know, I'm a pro-immigration guy. I always have been. We're all immigrants, or our parents
Mm-hmm.
were, or our grandparents. So we're all immigrants. It's a huge country, Canada. There's plenty of room for everybody. But last year, they let in nearly 1 million people into Canada. 1 million,
Wow.
if you count students and foreign workers as well. So, but nobody stopped in Ottawa, stopped to think, well, maybe we should take a look at this first before we let in so many people to make sure that there's enough places for them to live. Whether it's to buy a house or to rent an apartment, there just aren't enough. And so it's just making it worse and worse and worse. And they
Yeah.
were just saying the other day, the new Minister of Immigration, that they're going to continue with this doors open policy. And the cynical part of me says, well, I understand that. You know, each new immigrant is a potential new taxpayer. I get it. I understand that. And also, immigrants tend to vote liberal, and we're not going to get into politics here, but it is a liberal government, so they're piling them in, and I kind of understand that. But this has created, it's made it worse. And the worst part of it all is the immigrants are kind of being set up here because a lot of them arrive here and they look around and they look at these prices and they're going, what did we get ourselves into here? This is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, they're working
I
two
know.
jobs and they're paying like $3,000 rent. What? Nobody will ever be able to save a nickel if they're in that kind of situation. So they kind of got set up on this. It's not really their fault. But
Mm-hmm.
so that's the only politics I'm going to talk about. But I think they
Mm-hmm.
really I think they screwed it up. I really do.
Yeah.
That
I
they
don't know what's happening to this country, but it's I'm getting a lot of calls every day, and it's very sad. Honestly, I'm sad for Canada right now. Like the rates are so high, the food is so expensive, the
it
gas
is.
prices, it's just you can't even live anymore. It's like so difficult for like I'm lucky, like I'm blessed,
Yes.
I'm set up, but for people that are just starting out, when I get young clients calling me making 40,000 each or 50,000 each, that
Just
can't even
chip.
get them
I know.
a $500,000 condo. Like what is happening on 100,000 income? It doesn't even qualify.
I know. Because there's
So
still the
I've
stress
just
test. That's still in effect, right?
and
So
that's
if
the stress test is very high right now. You're looking at 8% stress test.
yeah,
So unless these
8%.
clients can qualify on a payment at 8%, they
Right.
can't purchase.
Right.
So
So that's so when people say, "Oh, Randy, you're always so rose-colored. How come you're so cautious right now?" Again, I look around right now, and I think you probably might feel the same because everybody I talk to who's in the industry says, "What is
mhm.
going on? Like, where are we going to end up with this?" You can't just say, "Okay, all the immigrants can move to Saskatchewan." You know, some of them will, but even out in Saskatchewan or Calgary, apparently the house prices are at an all-time high right now because so many of the immigrants went to Alberta. But and I was talking to a guy a couple of weeks ago from India, is a highly skilled tech worker, like an IT guy, and he was saying,
Mhm.
Randy, we might go back. They might go back to New Delhi because he
Mhm.
says, I can make the same amount of money working remotely at home, and the cost of living is one quarter of what it is
Yeah.
here.
I watched a reel yesterday, and some guy was saying that he couldn't take it, so he moved out of Canada. I think he moved to Mexico, he said. He
Yep.
said in Mexico, if you're making $40,000 a year,
You
you're
live like a,
living the best life like a king. He
I know
said
somebody who,
here,
yeah,
here in Toronto, he said I could be making 100,000 and it's poverty,
yeah,
which is like unbelievable.
yeah. And not everybody makes 100 grand. Not everybody's a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist or a
Hmm.
very wealthy mortgage broker. You know, they're not all
Oh
like that.
boy. No.
So, but you know what? But you're so right because
Mhm.
it's screwed up, and that's why when I look around, um, and anecdotally, I can tell you, okay, so the real estate board came out with their numbers for July about a week ago, the Toronto Real Estate
Right.
Board.
Hmm.
And their numbers seem they kind of put a spin on it. They said, well, you know, the sales are pretty good. Sales in July of 2023 are actually up from July of 2022. And actually prices were up like 2% or something as well. But what they didn't explain is that July of 2022 was one of the worst months because the interest rates started rising in March of 2022. And by July, the market was in retreat, basically. And
Right.
so they put a spin on it saying, well, things are a little better, but that's a low benchmark. When they're looking at July of 2022, that was not the best of times. So they got to do something. I mean, they really do. And
Yeah.
I think they're aware of it. They have to be. They have to be.
Yes. Well, they are aware of it because mortgage, we have um our mortgage special or people that advocate for that, like the stress test needs to go, the increase the amortization. They know that we need to do something.
Okay.
But like
So
even if we do that at this point, it's still going to be difficult for people. These rates need to come down. They need to
yeah,
come down. They need to control the deficit. They need, which is going to obviously reduce the rates. So
yeah.
hopefully that we see a turnaround soon for this.
Well, I'm also hearing anecdotally that a lot of banks, and people think that the banks are their enemy, and I don't know if they're their enemy because I've heard a lot of stories again from through other parties that when there's problems at mortgage renewal, people just say, I can't make that payment. I can't do it. That the banks have been extending amortization periods
Yeah, no,
uh,
banks are working with
quietly.
clients. Yeah,
Yes.
quietly. They
So
don't
it,
want to see people lose their homes. 100%. They're going to work with people
right.
and they're going to help them through this. I'm working on a few files myself with the banks.
Yeah.
So I'm the in-between person
But
trying to figure out. Yeah.
right. So I think, and that's a great thing, but I mean, you hear stories of, 40, 50, 60-year amortizations to keep the payments low. But when you
Oh
get up to a
boy.
60, and I heard a rumor there was an 80-year amortization that I heard about on a
Never heard
residential
that.
property, that's paying rent. If it's going to take you 80 years to pay off your loan, that's like three
Well, no, I think
generations.
this is just I think them doing this is a short-term fix,
I agree.
100%, until we get the rates back down and then they can like amortize it again over like
A
like a
normal
more
time.
feasible, a normal
Right.
amortization. This is just like a temporary solution to help
Yep.
people out, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Which is
Okay.
going to be definitely like the banks are hiring different sections in the bank to take care of these people. So I'm sure they're going to be monitoring
Hmm.
it. And
Interesting.
the client has to provide a detailed budget summary of
Sure.
everything that comes in and goes out of their bank account. They want a history of their bank account for 3 months, knowing what
Right.
they spend their money on. They're very strict on this. If
Hmm.
you do get the exception, it's not something that's done like easily. It's like an actual approval.
Okay.
Basically, it has to
That's
go through an
that's
approval
not
process.
that's not like a consumer proposal or anything. It's not going to affect your credit
No,
rating if
no,
it's
this is just customers that are calling
right.
saying, listen, I can't afford the payments at my current rate,
Right.
because they're variable, because it's tripled from 2,000 to 6,000, like you mentioned about this Barry
Yeah.
article. Um, and they're dealing with that. They're trying to figure out, they would want, like that Barry situation, they would
Right.
want 3 months bank statements, everything that goes in, everything goes out, even food, everything, insurance, everything to live,
Sure.
and then they're seeing how much money's left over and whether they would be able to afford that $6,000 payment. If they can't, then that's when they're going to reduce it temporarily until this is all rectified with the rates.
Interesting.
So they don't want people to lose their homes. The banks aren't in a position where they're like, okay, you've missed your payment, get out on the, like, let's sell your house. And like,
Right.
I'm sure they want to work with people to try to help them. And if once that's done, you know, they'll reevaluate it again once the rates come down,
Okay.
for
So
sure.
if you are an existing homeowner and your mortgage is coming up for renewal in November, let's say, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you've got one of those 2% mortgages or 2.5% mortgages, and it's coming up for renewal. You're not sure the exact numbers, but you know it's going to like double or at least maybe double or more. What should
Right.
a consumer do? What should they do? They bought their house 5 years ago. They got their mortgage either directly from the bank or through a mortgage broker, and they're thinking ahead. Okay, they got like 3 months to think ahead. What should that person do first, and what's the
Well,
next
they need
step?
to contact a mortgage broker or
Okay,
go to their bank, whichever they prefer. But as mortgage brokers, we can deal, well, we would be the middle person helping them.
absolutely.
And we don't have any like, we're
Right.
not
You're neutral.
affiliated with any specific lender. So we're going to look for the best rate and the
Right.
best product for them. And all we do as a mortgage broker is concentrate on mortgages. That's it. We don't have bank accounts to open, RSPs to open. It's just strictly mortgages. So what I'm doing is, if 5 years have gone by, depending on how much they took their mortgage out for, or the amortization. So if they started at 30, they're down to 25. At time of renewal, we can actually go back up to 30, which will
Oh,
be,
okay. That's going
which
to
will
help.
reduce their payments by five. Well, yeah, which will reduce their payments because we're adding 5 more years on top of
Right.
that. Listen, I know it sucks, but if this is going to help them and reduce their payments by 500 whatever dollars a month, and it's temporary, just let's take it for now. And then in 2 years or 3 years, if the, or when they come due again in 5 years, if the rates are
Mm.
low again, then let's reduce the payments again. We can increase the payments again to
Right.
make up for that 5 years that we added on to begin with.
Right.
But no need to stress about it. Like, if there's a solution and we can try to reduce the payments, let's try to reduce the
Right.
payments, and it's just temporary. So definitely, like I said, my client emailed me this morning. His mortgage is coming due in October. I'm working out the payments for him. If it's too much, then he wants to sell. But what I'm going to do is try to increase his amortization to the maximum amount, and we can go from there and see if that works for him. I'd rather him try to deal with lowering his payment than selling his house, because to get back into the housing is going to be very difficult
This
once
is
you're out.
so true. So true.
Yeah.
It's going to be almost impossible to get back in.
Yeah. So
And
I'd
that's
rather
one of
try
the
to work it
reasons.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why people say, well, there's very little inventory. Well, that's true because people have figured that out. If we sell our
Mm-hmm.
place, we're never going to get back in, like ever.
Right.
So that's a very good point. Very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
But
if you're
definitely, if clients, just a word out there, if your mortgage is coming due, or you are in a mortgage right now and it's a variable and your payments are too high to manage, contact me or a mortgage broker, or go to your bank and see what we can do to help. Like, there may be something we can do. And if that's going to relieve you, like I said, $500, $600 a month in your pocket more to help with all the other expenses and increases in life, then why not do it? Like, it's temporary. So definitely the first thing you need to do is contact a professional to help you through it, for
totally
sure.
agree. Do you find that most people these days are going for a shorter term mortgage, not the 5 year term, but maybe like a 3 year term?
Yes, a lot of people are requesting 2 or 3 year terms, but what they don't know is that the rates are much higher for shorter term. So the
Oh,
bank
okay.
knew, like the bank kind of clued in and said, hey, everyone's going short term because it's in their heads that rates are going to be lower within 2 to 3 years. So let's take a shorter term and then catch up with the lower rates when it comes due. So what happened with that is they decided to increase the 2 and 3 year rates. So to get a 2 year rate, you're looking at 6.5, 7%,
Oh
like
my.
6.5, 6.75 for a 2 year. 3 year rate, you're looking at 6.4, 6.25 to 6.45 for a 2 year term.
Wow.
I personally don't think the rates are going to be really low in 2 years. I think it's going to take at least 3 to 4 years for it to come circle back low again. Listen, the rates went up 10 times in like you said, in 17 months. It's going to take 17 months to 2 to 3 years for it to come. And they said they're not increasing for another or decreasing for another year. So then if it takes another 2 years to come down, you're looking at between 3 to 4 years before the rates are low again,
I
is
agree.
my prediction. Yeah.
And I don't think they're ever going to go down to 2% rates again, ever.
No, I don't think so.
That
Oh boy, unless we get another pandemic, but
don't say don't
I
say that,
know.
whatever. Just sort of a little bit off topic. I have two separate people right now who are bought pre-construction condos. And you know that game where they bought like 3 or 4 years ago and they didn't even think about a mortgage at that point.
That's another disaster right there. I
Right.
have so many people calling me in that same situation that do not qualify now to carry that mortgage.
Right. And yeah.
So,
And so what is there any advice other than the just say sorry? Is there any other advice that you could give someone in that situation? And they may have a little more time to work on it. They may say, well, my high rise at square one or whatever is going to be they're telling us occupancy for next summer, for next June or July. Should they start trying to find something, or what's the time frame that they should start
well, it
looking for a
depends. Like if their
mortgage?
occupancy is in July, then usually it takes about, 3 to 6 months, 8 months
Right.
possibly for it to
Right.
register. So they
Right.
do have a little bit of time, but if they know that their occupancy's in, what did you say, July
Or,
of
or
next
let's say
year?
it's February. Let's say occupancy is
Yeah, I
February.
would I would talk to a mortgage professional just to get the ball rolling, just so they know what to expect. I'd rather be prepared and have my ducks in a row,
Yep.
even if it's going to be a year down the road. So
Right.
definitely they need
There's
to close.
people, some of these guys in pre-con were so reckless and they didn't just buy one unit, they went out and bought three. And they didn't even
Yeah.
think about how are we going to qualify for this because prices have been going up so much. And well, it's 3 or 4 years away. We'll worry about the mortgage in 3 or 4 years. And now, it's coming home. And a lot I had one guy in particular who's panicking because he says, I'm not going to get these loans. I can't. He's got
Oh, I've got
yeah,
more. I can count on two hands, like the people that are calling me
right.
with pre-construction that don't qualify anymore.
Yeah.
It's I
It's
don't
going to
know
be a
what's
lot,
going to happen.
lot of assignments, I think, maybe at
Yeah,
a loss.
yeah.
Right. And
That's
you have to
why
close,
the next
because if you,
6 months to a year is going to
yeah,
be really critical and in figuring out what's happening with the economy for sure.
right, right.
Yeah.
And I will say one word of warning, and I'm not an expert on pre-construction, but I've done it. But if you're an investor and you bought a condo or two or three, uh, make sure that you find a way to close. Because if you don't close on that, the developer, first of all, you're going to lose your deposit, your 20% or whatever you put down, and the developer could come after you and sue you as well. If they have to sell it to someone else for less money, they're going to sue you for the difference. So by all means,
Wow.
even if you have to go with private funds or something for a year, find a way to close on that deal. That's so important.
Mhm.
Uh, just from my perspective. So there we
Right.
are. Other than that, everything's perfect, right?
Oh my
Sweetness and light.
goodness.
It's summertime. 2 more weeks, the kids will be going
We
back to
did have a
school.
rainy summer. That's one thing that
It was. Yeah, the
oh,
plants, the lawns are happy, the trees are happy, but
yeah.
there we go. And I know you've got kids
Hmm.
going back to school in about 2.5 weeks, and
I
life
know.
goes on, right? So
Crazy, crazy.
I do believe that somehow, although I don't have a whole lot of faith in the federal government, I have more faith in the banks these days that they're doing the right
Yeah.
thing. But I think somehow we're going to find a way to muddle through this. There's just
Oh,
too
we
much at
have to,
stake.
100%. Yeah.
The Canadian economy is so heavily reliant on real estate, not just for the actual purchase of a house, but all the people that work in the industry, whether they're in construction or in banking or realtors. It's a huge component of the Canadian economy, and they can't just let it fall over. There's just no way.
Hmm.
So I'm cautiously optimistic, but be careful, folks, and don't be reckless. Don't go out and pay more than you should on anything right now. Uh,
Oh
there are some
yeah.
there are some deals out there. There are, I believe there are, but just be very careful and get yourself
Yeah.
pre-approved before you sign anything.
Right.
Go
So
talk to your
important.
mortgage broker and just make sure you know what you're playing with here. That because
Yeah.
things have changed. You might have qualified a year and a half ago, no problem,
Yeah.
but that might not be the case today. So just be careful. Give Denise a
Yeah.
call and make sure that
Yeah.
everything
If
is
you have any
bulletproof.
questions or you need any
Yeah.
advice on what to do with an upcoming mortgage, or if you're currently in a variable, for sure, give me a call. I'll be happy to help you and go through options.
Well, thank you, Denise Pisani. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm going to put your contact information underneath the video and also in the podcast. And I wish
Thank
you
you
all the
so much,
best.
Randy.
No
Always a
worries.
pleasure.
Yeah, and hopefully in the next little while things will be back on track in real estate
I
in
really hope
Canada.
so.
Yeah,
I really hope for the consumers and the public and the people of Canada. I just hope it all
me
works
too.
out.
Me too. So thanks again. You're welcome to come
Thank
on board
you.
anytime. Anytime.
Thanks, Randy. Thank you.
Okay. You have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.